What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today, once again, we've got some more Destiny 2 stuff to talk about. Mostly positive news this time. We've actually gone a week without some major drama or controversy with this game, but Bungie have released some pretty impressive info about upcoming updates. I mean, as always, none of this stuff is going to be the silver bullet to just fix the game and bring everyone back all of a sudden. It is going to take a lot of things to restore the game to where we all think it should be, but once again, this is another step in that direction. So today in this video, we'll be talking about what's happening in the January update, some new loot rewards, events, patches, and even more bits of random news. So as always, I love seeing your thoughts on all this stuff, so drop a comment down below with what you guys think, and let's get into the info. Beginning with the January update, which of course is launching next week on Tuesday, the 30th of January. This is going to be in a patch called 1.1.2. So we've got a small preview of some of the patch notes, not all of them, but a couple of highlights, I guess. The first thing is a buff to the Prometheus lens exotic. This is going to be buffing it to where it should be, or where Bungie wants it to be. Obviously not where it's crazy broken and just melting everything, but it's going to be buffed to do more damage than it does currently. I mean, honestly, right now the lens isn't that bad. It's actually a pretty decent gun, even right now with its nerf. So with the damage buff, it could be even better. So I'm looking forward to see just how much they improve it. And then a secondary buff is that they're going to make it create ammo when you kill things instead of taking it from your ammo reserve. So you can basically now fire the thing infinitely and it's never going to run out. So the Prometheus lens is definitely one to look out for. It could be really good with this update. Now, also inside this patch, there's going to be a notification when your postmaster is full, which is pretty nice. So when your stuff is going to start getting deleted and disappearing, it's going to tell you about it. Heroic strikes are now going to have a greater chance at dropping exotics. They fixed an issue where Curse of Osiris strikes were not properly granting clan engrams when featured as a Nightfall activity. So, of course, you might remember recently we had the issue with the Garden World strike, where it dropped this cool emblem for prestige mode. These two you can see on screen right now. But the Nightfall had to be changed because of a clan engram bug. But now this means those two strikes have been fixed, and when they get put back as Nightfalls again, both emblems are going to be available. They're also making Mercury Challenges now available during adventures. Fixed an issue of new characters not getting the Flashpoint milestone, which I've never heard of, but there you go, that's been fixed. They fixed an issue where challenges were not appearing in quick play, and also increased the time it takes to dismantle a Masterwork core so you don't dismantle them accidentally. So a very quick preview of some of the miscellaneous things inside next Tuesday's patch 1.1.2, otherwise known as the January update. Of course, there'll be a lot more stuff in the patch notes, and I'll be covering those on Tuesday, so stay tuned on the channel, and I'll be letting you guys know what else is inside this patch. Now, Bungie also reminded us there will be a big February update as well, dropping similar things to, of course, the December update and this January update, so it's going to be pretty similar. So far, we know it's going to be including strike scoring, mods 2.0, Crucible improvements, PC tower chat, exotic repetition reduction, and showing fire team members on the map. So those are some things included in February's update. And they said next week in the blog post, they'll be laying out a roadmap of exactly when these updates are coming out in February and spring. So it should give us a pretty good idea of what's happening for this game and when in terms of updates. Now, also, of course, in 2.5 weeks, Crimson Days is going to be launching, the Valentine's Day themed event. I covered a ton of the changes and what's going to be happening inside it in a recent video. Definitely a big improvement over the Dawning, so we're still waiting for more info on that. It should be interesting to see how that turns out. So let's run through a bunch of the big changes and things happening next Tuesday and next week with the January update. So beginning with Iron Banner. Of course, it's going to return on Tuesday for 1 week. The game mode is going to be Control, thankfully. I mean, technically it should have been Supremacy because it goes on rotation, but I think Bungie know that Supremacy isn't exactly a fan favorite mode. So even though we're pretty much 2 months into the season, this is going to be the first Iron Banner of Season 2 with its changes. So you can get the old weapons and armor from Season 1 still in there. There's also going to be 3 new weapons added to the loot pool that are directly purchasable. So this Season 2 version of Iron Banner isn't exactly the same as Faction Rally, where it's kind of drip-feeding weapons very slowly. This time we're getting 3 weapons at a time. They seem to rotate. And this time is going to be the hand cannon, the scout rifle, and the shotgun. There's also the Sparrow, Ghost, Ship, and also Emblem that tracks your lifetime Iron Banner ranks across all seasons. So these are the ornaments for the armor, same as Season 1 armor, but these are the ornaments to apply to them. You can earn them through challenges, same as Faction Rally, and each piece is going to have some kind of challenge on it that says what it requires. Obviously, the ornament challenges are going to be Crucible and PvP focused, with it being Iron Banner, unlike Faction Rally, which is all PvE focused. There's also no limit on engrams, so you're not capped at 30. You can open as many as you want and keep getting loot. So those are changes to Season 2's version of Iron Banner. Took 2 months to get there, but we're finally going to see what this version is like. So moving on, let's talk about Masterwork Armour, something else also included in next Tuesday's update. So it's going to be the same as weapons, of course. You get a higher chance of dropping them in raids and trials. So we now know the exact numbers of what Masterwork Armour does. So each piece is going to give you 3% damage resistance inside your super. You can have this on all your armor pieces. And of course, 3% times 5 is going to be 15% maximum. That is your total damage reduction with a full set of Masterwork Armour. Now you can also stat reroll, which is I think the best part. The 15% more armor in the super is not that big a deal if you ask me. I mean, it's nice to have inside Crucible. This is passive perk that's always working for you, and it definitely makes you want to have all Masterwork Armor, but also bear in mind, if you wear an exotic armor piece, that's one less Masterwork to have, so you're going to have 12% in theory most of the time, unless you want to use a full set of legendary gear and not use an exotic. But I do think the better feature of Masterwork Armor is to reroll the stat bonuses. So for 1 Masterwork Core and 10 legendary shards, you can reroll the armor to be resilience, recovery, or mobility, which I think is a much better feature. I always hate getting hunter pieces that are just pure mobility. So now you can change that, and it definitely is an incentive to get full Masterwork gear, so you can change that to be pretty much recovery. So let's move on and talk about probably one of the best parts of next Tuesday's update, which is the raid loot changes. So they said, we've been hearing that the current system doesn't feel exciting when you kill bosses, the tokens aren't interesting enough, and that you want more deep chase items to hunt down, which is definitely spot on. So the first thing is going to be new raid mods. These are available on both new and old armor that you already have. You can basically plug them in. They are also reusable, so you can swap whichever one you want for 1 Callus token. They give you +5 armor, so it doesn't actually lower your light level, which is nice. And they benefit you everywhere inside the raid, not just specific encounters like Destiny 1. So on the Leviathan, Solar Arc or Void abilities deal 25% more damage, so pretty good. That's just one example of what these raid mods or perks can be. There's also recharge your grenade when you use a super, quite like that one, and also deal 20% more damage after getting a melee kill, which again sounds pretty good. I can imagine using that with the Skullfort or the Winter's Guile for bonus melee damage. It sounds actually pretty decent, so there's definitely going to be some nice combos with exotics and also subclass perks. Now, one of the biggest things, which I still cannot figure out why wasn't a thing since day 1, but doing prestige difficulty encounters gives you both normal drops and prestige drops when you do an encounter. So again, I have zero clue why it wasn't a thing in the first place, but there you go. So definitely an incentive to do prestige now. Know you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get both loot drops. So they're also making it so that every single encounter is going to guarantee you a drop. So it's not a case of hoping you get something. You're always going to get either an armor or a weapon. And they're also making it so that certain drops are not tied to specific encounters anymore. So I'm guessing that means things like the Midnight Coup, the hand cannon, the very good one, is not just tied to Callus anymore. You can get it anywhere. On top of that, encounters now have a chance to drop exotics now, actual items, not engrams. So pretty cool feature, similar to Destiny 1, how items would just drop straight up, and it definitely made them a lot more memorable. There's going to be a rotating item directly purchasable from Benedict, the sweeper bot, inside the tower. And in order to purchase the item, you need to have beat the raid in a certain week. If it's a prestige item, you need to have beat the prestige raid to be able to buy that prestige piece of loot. You can't just do normal mode and get it. So definitely a nice feature as well. There's also a pretty big one, a new exotic raid ghost shell. So something is going to drop randomly inside the loot pool, something to chase. So it's called the Contender Shell, and it drops on both the final encounters of both the raid and raid layer. And that's the only item that is tied to one encounter. I mentioned before how all the items drop from all encounters. This exotic ghost shell is the exception. It only drops from final bosses. So something pretty funny is there is going to be bad luck protection. So eventually, after a certain amount of raids, there is a system in place to make sure you get it eventually. So the perks are pretty interesting. The ghost is going to let you earn bright engrams as rewards after raid encounters. So when a bright engram doesn't drop, it's going to raise your chances that the next encounter is going to drop you a bright engram. So for the first time, a system actually lets you get bright engrams directly as a reward pool. Definitely a big fan of this. Need to do a lot more of this, earning bright engrams in-game. Now, a secondary perk in addition on this ghost shell, I mentioned getting exotics after encounters. What this ghost does is when you get an exotic drop, the ghost is going to raise your chance at the exotic being something you don't already have by 50%. So it's basically a half-fated engram, which is pretty cool. And the third feature is going to track how many raid encounters you have completed. So not gonna lie, some pretty impressive stuff with the raid changes. That ghost shell is looking very nice, probably one of the best ones in the game, especially something you want to have on if you raid. But there you go, those are the changes to perks, the raid loot, and also a raid ghost shell. So moving on, let's talk about shaders. So Bungie explained in detail why it's so difficult to actually make a feature to dismantle them in bulk and what they're working on. So to put it simply, they said shaders are on the code counted as individual items, and they've never had a system or scenario where you can dismantle hundreds of an item that all give rewards at the same time. They said they also need to safeguard it for items it gives you that can't fit in your inventory and you might lose them, like Glimmer, for example. If you're near the cap of 100k and then dismantling them would give you more than 100k, the game might give you nothing. So I guess those are some of the bugs they're working on and why it's so difficult. So what they're working on is going to be basically a mass exchange solution, which actually does make a lot of sense. So you basically go to a vendor, trade multiples of 10 or 50 shaders, for example, and he's going to give you Glimmer or whatever it's supposed to give you. So I guess that is the solution. You're able to trade mass shaders and stacks and get stuff in return instead of dismantling them. They said they also know that we missed Destiny 1 armor shader mechanics, so they're looking at ways to reintegrate that capability without losing the ability to individually shade weapons, ghosts, ships, sparrows, or customize specific pieces of armor. And they also understand that we want to see shaders be more freely usable and not limited by availability. They're working on reintroducing shader collections, so a kiosk basically, or a way to get copies of a shader you already have. So they also announced the Fall of Osiris comic part 2 is coming next week. Going to be continuing where the first one left off, and now Osiris had a falling out with the Speaker and a core array. So obviously it is a free comic available on the Bungie.net website, and as well as it being a pretty cool piece of lore if you're into that, there was also of course a hidden emblem in Morse code in the very first one. So it is possible there might be something else snuck in the second one, but it's not exactly guaranteed. But there you go, that has been a massive roundup of everything that Bungie has been saying recently. I want to thank you guys again for sticking around and supporting the channel regardless if you play much Destiny these days. I appreciate you guys. If you did enjoy the video, then leaving a like rating before you go would be awesome. And there are going to be quite a few videos next week coming out with the updates, so make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already. Until then though, you can click the image that's just appeared on screen to watch my latest Destiny 2 video if you missed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.